right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Headhunters podcast. Today we have a very special guest, 14-7 in his professional MMA career. Just came off a big win against Devin Jung. Just had his next fight booked for UFC 288. Ladies and gentlemen, Devin Brown Bear Clark. What's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No problem. First and foremost, I want to know if you got the Golden Retriever puppy.
I did. His name is Stanley. We got him. He's 5 months. He's like 5.5 months old now. But he's a purebred good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love him. So.
Yeah. So being a dog dad, what was the toughest part of having a puppy?
Because the two dogs that we had right before him, or that we have now and before him, they're like 16, so we just weren't used to a dog that's being a dog. So half of it's just us realizing, okay, that's what dogs do. They move, they move around a lot. They want to play. You got to walk them, stuff like that. But it's the fact that he listens to me, but he won't listen to my wife as much or my daughter.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Well, pleasure for coming on. I thank you for that and answering me back on Instagram.
Yeah, no problem.
But let's take it back to your first ever fight in the UFC. You fought Alex Nicholson. Unfortunately, you took the loss there. What were those emotions like coming off a loss and trying to bounce back?
It was interesting. It was more like a wrestling type mindset at the time, because it's kind of, I didn't have a whole lot of fights in MMA. I had 5 amateur fights, then I think 5 or 6 pro fights before I got signed to the UFC. So I was going my UFC debut with only 6 pro fights. So I still had that wrestling mindset. So it was actually a lot easier to get over that loss. I could just chalk it up as a fluke. It was my first time I cut to 185, and I hadn't fought 185, I think, since amateurs. And so the weight cut got a little weird, and I felt it at the end of that first round, and he glanced me. I went out. So 100% blame the weight cut there. But it was mentally way easier to bounce back from that than after getting further in my career and getting losses. Because I think I won 2 in a row after that. So that loss didn't really bother me too much.
Yeah, and I saw that you actually had been found on Dana White's Find a Fighter, I believe. Where he
looking for a fight.
Yeah. Or
Dana White.
I apologize.
Yeah.
And
that was in my hometown. It was cool. It was cool. So it was a big fight. It was a title fight for RFA, which is now LFA. So it's big fight anyways. And, the whole town's there. It's a sold out venue. And it was at the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is still one of my favorite places to fight. Because it's, set up like it would be a big arena, but it only seats, I think, like 4,000. And they just pile people in there. It's sold out and stuff like that, and the whole crowd's going for me. So like, in all of that helped me get into the UFC, because my performance alone, I didn't, coming off that fight, I didn't think that was enough to get signed, because my opponent quit after the second round because he broke his finger. I'm like, oh, I didn't do enough. I didn't get time to show enough. Because I just used some brutal wrestling, took him down hard, and just kind of was going at it. But ended up, Dana came back to the locker room afterwards, and he said, hey, you're a 185er in the UFC. I said, all right. But then, so it was a super cool feeling. Yeah, it was really nice, especially in my hometown.
Yeah. So you have the fight with Alex Nicholson, and you move up, correct?
That was my only fight at 185.
Yeah. And you say you win two in a row, and you get all the way through your career. You come to I want to move to the Devin Jung fight, because you won by unanimous decision. Did you feel like you did enough there?
Yeah, definitely. in fights like that, they're close fights, but you really have to look at the in between stuff, what's happening in between some of these holds and the cage work and the little strikes that I throw in between controls, which the other guy isn't quite doing that, and it's all about being busy and looking busy and scoring at the right time. So even if it looks as close as it can, the judges are looking at the in between stuff, and the good judges are, anyways. So yeah, I believe I did enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and now you got the fight with Kennedy Zachua coming up on 288. A lot of people call him a tough opponent. He's knocked out the likes of Kutabala, Carl Robinson, Carlos Olberg. What are you kind of looking for there to find the holes in his game?
He's a tall striker, and it's a little bit like Jung. I don't think he'll have the idea to out wrestle me like Jung did. So it'll be a little different, of course. Every fight's different. But he, at the end of the day, he is a 6'5" striker, and I'm a pressure fighter, wrestler, and I can take your head off. So it's yeah, I feel like it's a really good matchup for me.
And when they call you for that fight and stuff, did they kind of give you other options, or were they just like, hey, you got Zachua and it's gonna be on 288?
Yeah, that's the fight they offered me, and the thing is, like, I wasn't gonna take it. It was 2 weeks. It was just 2 weeks after my fight, so really quick turnaround, and I had just gotten back home. So I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I train in Denver, Colorado. So my fight camp is spent out here, and I have a wife and a daughter back home, 9-year-old daughter, and then I have a wife. So it's super hard being away from them for camps. But we figured strike while the iron's hot. We're on a roll. I'm still in good shape, so take the fight. I took the next 2 weeks, kind of relaxed a little bit, stayed in shape, but relaxed a little bit, spent time with the family, and now we're back in camp, training hard, and it feels good, and like we kind of never left camp, in a good way. So it's all coming back really quick, and I got just enough of a break and family time, and then hopefully I'll have all summer. Not hopefully, but I mean, kind of hopefully, kind of whatever. But say you get a quick knockout, and they're like, "Oh, you want to fight week?" So who knows? But yeah, it's a great start to a camp so far.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you come off that fight with Jung. They give you that fight. They call you 2 weeks later. I mean, that probably is a tough decision. What kind of thoughts go through your head there? You say you almost didn't take it. What kind of gave you the decision? Like, yeah, I'm definitely going to take this. You said strike iron while it's hot, but what else went into
that? My wife. She's like, well, you might as well. You're, it sucks, but Devin, this is your job, and you gotta work. So I'm like, shit, okay, let's do it then. And so yeah, then kind of planning on having the summer to hang out with them.
Right. Yeah, you train in Denver. I live there. I train at Easton Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, okay.
You're with Elevation, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that kind of like? 'Cause, I mean,
it's cool. There's a lot of guys, and we see people from other gyms and stuff like that too. And then it's interesting because Elevation is kind of multiple gyms and multiple teams that work together. And it feels like I've only been here a little over a year, but it feels like it's kind of always been that, and Easton was involved too. So yeah, it's a cool look. I get a lot of different looks, and there's some light heavyweights in town. So you got a lot of light heavyweights in town, so it's easy to get training in, even if we got to do some cross training or something like that. But with Zach, I got Zach Puega on the team. Pwaga. I don't know how to say his damn name. But I got Zach on the team, and it's always nice going with him. We feed it off each other really well. And then we're about to do some training, some cross training and stuff like that. So it's nice. Denver's a really nice town, and good little fight city.
Yeah, I mean they breed some absolute dogs there. I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
But so you're gonna go into the fight with Sechua. We're gonna say you come out with that win. What's your next steps looking forward? Who else are you looking at to fight?
Well, hopefully that's like a top 15. Puts me at top 15, and then I'm looking at one more fight, and then we might have some rematches and stuff like that. But definitely a top 15 after that. Volkan Ozdemir is I really want to fight Volkan Ozdemir. I think that's a good fight for me. It's a big fight. He's top 10 guy, or maybe number 10, something like that. So it's a really good fight, and a fight I know I can win. I'm not gonna look past Kennedy though. He's obviously a super tough guy, but gotta destroy him first. Gotta dismantle him completely first, and then we move on and think about that next step. But Vulcan's on my radar for sure.
Yeah. I saw the Zachua after his fight, and he obviously looked strong. Don't want to look past him at all. But when you go into a fight against him, you said you're definitely you're coming up against a tall striker. What kind of with being a tall striker, what are the things you got to look past with that as well? I mean, you fight somebody, he's got to reach. I mean, is there anything your team's really telling you, like, we're going to hone in on this, and that'll be enough?
I mean, a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to get too much into what they can do. Obviously, we know his weapons. He's got a good cross, stuff like that. He's got good elbows. He's got flying knees, just because he reaches up and his knees are 6 feet tall, like whatever. That's all granted. We know that. But it's like how does he put that together when I'm doing my thing? When he's got to piss off Devin Clark coming at him, he can't see where I'm going. So like when you have somebody up here and then someone down here, it's hard to kind of gauge what this guy is doing because he's underneath you. And so good luck to him trying to figure that puzzle out, which is my level changes and my feints, and then when am I actually going to hit you, when am I going to try to take you down, or when I'm going to actually take you down. How do you make that decision? That's something he's going to have to deal with, which is one of the most difficult things for a fighter to deal with. And you see this style is really hard to defend. I'm sure you watched the Marab fight the other night.
I did.
Bro, like, that's, well, obviously I'm not 135 pounds, but that's a little bit of my style, and it's really hard to defend. And Piotr Jan, he's one of the best guys on the roster, and he got broken by that style. So that's just a little, and obviously I do things a little bit different, but that's that kind of style that's really, really hard to deal with, and that's what I was gifted with.
Right. Yeah, you bring up the Marab fight. I had some money on it. All I needed was him to finish the fight. When you look at a fight like that, what if as a fighter I don't understand, like, why don't they finish the fight? When you get that feeling of like I'm up 4-0, 4-0,
yeah.
Does that kind of go into your head too? Like, let's just cruise to the finish, or are you always looking for a finish?
If it's there, you don't want to chase a finish. And see, the big thing is, and almost every fighter has been there, chase a finish and then you end up getting finished. I did it against Alexander Rakic. It's one of the worst feelings ever. Like, oh, I had him, and Rakic, I had him knocked out in that fight, and then I gotta knock him out, and I get finished. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's playing it safe because Marab continued to beat the shit out of Piotr Jan. Whether he got a finish or not, I'm pretty sure he still got fight of the night bonus or performance bonus because that was so. For me, I know he had money on it, which sucks, but for me, that's way more impressive than a finish. When you can go 5 rounds and do what he did against one of the best in the world, that is rare. That is so rare that somebody can even do that. That's one of the most impressive things I've seen in the UFC in a while. Just in not only, he did it for 5 rounds, and
his gas
a lot
tank
of
is
people.
endless.
What's that?
His gas tank is endless.
Oh yeah. And no, I mean it's endless, but he was tired. He was super tired, and to be able to have that mental control of saying no, we still got 2 more rounds or 1 more round, and not to let up at all, like super impressive. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do in the sport, and that's why. And it's starting to come around a little bit, but that's why you don't see a whole lot of people doing it because it sucks. Even with a win, it sucks to do, and you have to train really hard and be prepared and know how to handle that. And that's not something that happens overnight. I can do it a little bit, maybe not on Marab's level yet, but I've been wrestling since I was 7 years old. That's the pace that you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I watched the Marab fight. That was impressive. I mean, you watch something like that, and you see how tired Pewter is, and Marab's over there just like, what are you waiting on? Let's go. So that hats off to him, and he deserves everything coming his way as well. But I did want to step back a second and ask you about you being the underdog against Jung. Do you look at things like that, or do you notice anything like that? And does that drive you to go take their head off?
It's normal. It's normal, man. I'm 8-7 in the UFC. You got a guy that's coming in. He's knocking people out and elbows, and I've haven't been the most consistent, so why wouldn't I be the underdog? And it doesn't bother me, and it's a little bit motivating, but at the same time, none of that shit matters. It obviously does not matter. I think I was a pretty big underdog that fight, and good. I kind of want the fighter to think that he's got an up on me, because who really cares? Nobody, like, and you see everybody, the MMA fans. I love the MMA fans, but MMA math does not fucking work, because it's a fight. At the end of the day, it's a fight. It's a 50-50 match, no matter, regardless of what's happened before. You got a champion versus an unranked guy. Who cares? It's a fight. Anything can happen. Who was it? GSP and Matt Serra. Like, I don't even know what the odds were on that, but it's like that proves that a fight is a fight, and you can never underestimate a man or a woman. Anybody that's got that drive and got heart, they can win a fight, no matter who they're up against. And all it takes is that upper fighter to look past them a little bit, to not think that that they can be touched or knocked out or finished or whatever else, just because they never have. And it's pretty interesting when you get someone that's especially like undefeated or only had like one loss. They don't believe, because I've been there, they don't believe that they can lose, and they don't really know how to accept that they could lose that fight. It's great confidence, but it's also a lack of awareness.
And I think a perfect example of that is Grasso Shevchenko. I mean, we just watched it.
Yeah.
Yep. You got Shevchenko, who comes in at I think she was like minus 850, and Grasso was plus 450 or something. And I mean, you watched it. Shevchenko got almost, some people would argue, dominated. You can't underestimate anybody. But before I get you out of here, I got a couple questions for you. First,
Yeah.
I want you to let me know who you think is going to win the main event of your card, Sterling and Henry.
I like both of the guys. But I think Cejudo might have an edge with the wrestling. I really do. Because unlike previous fights, I don't think Aljamain Sterling's gonna be able to hold Cejudo down and work his jiu-jitsu, which is he's really good at. But I don't think with Cejudo that's really gonna be an option. So I think Cejudo might edge that one out.
Yeah. And then I like to ask, who is on your UFC Mount Rushmore?
Well, I got John Jones. John Jones, and then GSP. Then you got to kind of have one that's like, Don Fry's up there, just because you have different personalities, with the fighters, and you can kind of see where some of that stuff comes from. He was one of those pioneers that just didn't give a shit, and you can see that in some of the guys now. So he's got to be up there, and then shoot, I know I'm just like kind of. It's a quick answer. This is a question I need to think about for like a day. They put Anderson Silva up there, I suppose. Yeah. There's 4, right? There's 4. It's 4.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. I should know this. I live in South Dakota. That's where Mount Rushmore is. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you hit basically the nail on the head there. But I want to definitely thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're going through the fight camp now, and I appreciate you answering me on Instagram. Like I said, I might be at your fight. Me and one of my buddies are talking about it. So we might head up there to New Jersey. I'm super excited to watch you fight and watch.
You gonna get in the media room?
Journey even further. Oh,
are you gonna get in the media room?
Yet. I'm not there yet.
Oh, you gotta try it. You gotta try.
Yeah, no, I will.
Cool.
I'll look into it. But I wish you best of luck. I hope you go out there and do the job and get that top 15 next to your name. But anything else you want to say before you get out of here?
Just thank my sponsor, Dakota Herb in Brandon, South Dakota. They treat me well, and they have great products. Shout out to them, and all the fans out there supporting me and always rooting for a goddamn underdog, because that's what we are, and I don't give a shit, and I'm gonna be a champion anyways. I'm not the one that's supposed to win. I'm really not supposed to be that guy. So thank you everybody that believes in me.
Absolutely. Well, Devin, I wish you the best of luck. Hope to talk to you after you win, and
yes,
we'll see you soon.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good day.